Right. All right. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight, Monday night. And we have a very interesting topic for you all tonight in regards to is your relationship on track? Here's how to look. Here's what to look for.
Checking our mics
Yep.
as everyone gets on in. Yes. Thank you all for joining us. We hope you had a great weekend. It was a nice weekend for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope the same for you all as we get back in to another work week. This topic is great because it's not really based off of a question, but just something we haven't talked about in a while. And in particular, will really help overall go over some certain signs and really, I guess, fundamental principles. Because really, all of these signs are based off of fundamental values and principles of a healthy relationship. So if you have these things and you're certainly on track, and then later on we'll, of course, bring to awareness the things that, hey, maybe our relationship is off track, just to be mindful of, because it's always good to have that reflection.
Yep. So shall we begin?
Yes. Oh, go Steelers.
Yep. Go Steelers.
Okay. So hold on. Let's pull on up.
Yep. So sign number one. So sign number one is you communicate openly and honestly. So this is essential for any healthy relationship. You should be able to talk to your spouse about anything. So without fear of harsh judgment or rejection.
Mhm.
So this should include your hopes and dreams, your fears and insecurities, and your disagreements.
Mhm.
So you should feel comfortable with your spouse or talking about these topics. How about your past as well? I think that we're about to talk about futures and all those things as well.
Yeah, that too. That's a good one too, because believe it or not, some people go into a relationship and are fearful of that. And even some cultures too. They say, oh, don't, talk about your past or whatever. But truth be told, if you're in a good, healthy relationship, if that's, your whole life should be open to your spouse to hear about so that they can really get some more understanding of you, right?
Right.
Like, and what you've been through and your mindset now,
Does guilt may lie in with people who lie
Yeah.
about their past. So
Yeah.
don't fall into that trap, and then also too, don't create a bad past for yourself as well, in which you have to lie
Yes.
about it and then
Right.
bring insecurities into your relationship
Right.
as
Right.
well.
Yeah. That's so true.
And
So
all
true.
those bodies, the media talk, social media talks about the body count and all of that.
Yeah.
Be mindful of that as well. So that does matter to some people in relationships. Trust me.
Yeah. But you should be comfortable overall talking about all of that, and within it, the relationship within
Honestly,
yourself, right? Because it just will really help you be able to be yourself, right? Your whole self, and just show up as you. And you should feel accepted by this. That's a true sign that, you're right on track, because you feel accepted by your spouse. Like, you don't feel like, hey, they, deep inside, they judge me, like that's a harsh feeling to want to live in, especially with somebody that you're going to create your life with, who's going to see you day in and day out. So,
right. I mean, but
yeah.
also to understand the choices that you've made in the past, you do have to be accountable for those
Right.
as well.
Yeah. So make smart ones, so it's not so heavy on your conscience, right? Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah. Yep. The next sign.
So number two.
Mm-hmm.
So you and your spouse share the same core values and have similar goals for the future.
Yeah.
So this doesn't mean that you have to agree on everything.
Right.
But it does mean that you are aligned on the big issues, the big topics.
Yeah.
Some similar goals and some similar goals that couples must agree on to strive towards include financial goals.
Yeah.
So this could be including saving for a down payment, starting a family, or retirement.
Business ventures, things like that, if you're involved in
Investments,
that. Yep. You should be open
big
to talk about that.
purchases.
Yeah. Yeah. Things, or even things that you're really excited about, buying or whatever the case may be. Like, be open and having those conversations with your spouse. Of course, career goals. Do you both want to live in the same city? That's a big one. Whether or not, you have similar career aspirations, and how do they align with each other? Make sure you're talking about that. Your family planning goals. How many? When do you want to have them? Are you going to have them? All of those are big things. Of course, religious and spiritual. I think that, and political. I think I don't write that down, but political is certainly one as well too, because you don't want to be a divided house. You want to be able to stand together on all of your thoughts and your principles and have all that aligned so that then you can have those open conversations with each other and be like, able to really let it all out because you're comfortable. And of course, your lifestyle hobbies, right? So what are these hobbies? Do y'all share similar hobbies? Do you want to live in a big city or a small town? Like some people, really love the city life, and that's fine too. But if you're wanting a quaint, quiet life, maybe some gardening and stuff, you got to come into agreement with your spouse on whether or not, that's something you can really do. So,
yep. It is important to note that couples do have to agree on that couples do not have to agree on everything. So, however, it is essential to be on the same page about your core values and goals.
Yeah.
So make sure that these things are aligned.
Yeah, because if they're not, it will certainly lead to conflict and resentment. And that's, just going to throw you off track.
Yep.
Probably throw you into some of those signs that we're going to talk about later. That's
Right.
going to show, things aren't on.
And also to be mindful for couples who are dating as well. These are things that you need to be aligned with prior to engagement. So understand that as well. You don't hold off on those hard questions because you in fear of losing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely that person that you're going to be losing isn't fit for you.
Yeah.
Or share your own similar goals. And also too, don't even think that you're going to change this person
Mm-hmm.
or the way that they think or the way that they vote or the God that they worship, because that isn't something that you can do. Change only occurs when that person decides that they want to change on their own.
Yeah.
So you can only hope to inspire change in people, but you yourself cannot change other people. And more than likely what happens is that they grow resentment against you in some form of fashion. So
or look at you like the ops. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
resentment. So you want to make sure that the change is natural, is organic.
Yeah.
Something that they are themselves deciding to do.
Right. Yep. Spot on.
Yeah. Also, so sign number 3, you support each other's dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So you should make sure the dreams are realistic. Make sure the dreams are realistic in every way. So you should be each other's biggest cheerleaders and help each other achieve their goals.
Yeah.
So don't compete with your spouse. Yeah. And then also to make sure that you let them know if their dreams are realistic.
What's it called? Their
we had a letter about that. Somebody wanted to be an actor or something.
Yeah, it's a term. Sometimes I wish we could do this show during the day because my brain is more sharp. But it's a term that I'm thinking of, like when you have like those lofty dreams. Yeah, when you're a very lofty dreamer, then you're often in your head. So like, you gotta sometimes make sure you're in the realistic side of things, but certainly support your spouse if they're really even wanting to go after some big dreams that are realistic, but they're big feats to take on, right? Still support them and be down and be like, hey, you can do it if you really put in the hard work, and I'm right behind you, or beside you, however you want to look at it. Yeah.
And then sign number 4, so you make time for each other. So even if you're both busy, it is important to make time for each other on a regular basis. So this could mean going on dates, spending time at each other's home, or simply talking on the phone with each other.
Especially if you have kids. I think this is top priority if you have children, or maybe if you're in the retirement phase, right? And you're taking in or not so much retirement, but you're in your older, maybe 40s, and you're taking in your elderly parents or something like that. If you're caregiving for someone and your energy is going to be expelled elsewhere, make sure to save some of that energy for your spouse. You really want to be able to connect with them and feel that intimacy and build that intimacy, because that's surefire way that you're on track with your spouse, because you're able to have those good intimate moments together. And you should, of course, that leads us actually to sign number 5. You should have fun together. So you should really enjoy your spouse's company, be able to laugh with them, and be yourself naturally in like a playful way. So kind of like that, returning to that childlike mind again, but with your spouse, because you're able to be comfortable and you can joke around and be goofy and not, of course, feel like, oh, they're not going to joke with me or they're judging me or, I'm too much. You should never feel like you're too much for your spouse. Certainly.
So sign number 6, you trust each other.
Yeah.
So trust is essential for any healthy relationship. So you should be able to trust your spouse to be honest with you and to have your best interests at heart.
Yes, I think that is a huge one because we often, we always want to say, oh, like we trust our spouse not to, cheat on us. But even on other aspects as well, you should really keep in mind that, hey, my spouse in all moments is thinking also about me and whether or not, considering me and whether or not how I would feel about any situation, you're in, whether that, I don't know, any type of situation that comes in, you should always have a thought in mind about your spouse. I always think about that, just to be, even if it's like, oh, they'll like what's going on, they'll enjoy this, or maybe like they wouldn't enjoy this, I don't know. Just it's a way to be of connecting with your spouse and being like mind to mind, keep them in thought, they always say.
Sign number 7, you can resolve conflict in a healthy way. This is a very hard one for some folks. Yeah. Especially, I would say people who did not grow up with a sibling or selfish people. Yeah. All couples have disagreements from time to time. Yeah. But it's important to be able to resolve conflict in a healthy way, not to let them linger or discontinue a conflict. So this means communicating openly and honestly, listening to each other's perspectives, and being willing to compromise, listening to each other's opinions, how they feel as well. So
yes, yeah, that's a big one. We always talk about conflict resolution. We have lots of videos on this. I'm sure we're going to have more and more videos on this, but this is a big one. We, as a whole, need to realize that not everything has to be a fight. You don't always have to, things don't have to blow up and go to the worst case scenario. It really can work out to where you become so comfortable with your spouse that you understand like, hey, this is a moment that we need to work through right now. So let's work through it, right? Like just get into the mindset of let's work through it. And then once you're through it, it's going to feel, it's going to feel like an easy thing where you can start getting over more and more things quicker, with less resistance. It's more like second nature versus like, the heavy emotions of things. Yeah, the heavy emotions of things. It really just becomes not an exercise, because I'm not saying that it's something you certainly shouldn't be fighting all the time. And that actually leads us right into the next whole segment, is basically the signs that's showing, hey, your relationship is probably not on track. So that's, if you're constantly fighting, that leads us to that, because if you aren't able to resolve your conflicts, if you're constantly having disagreements, even over those little petty things, it's really probably a sign that there's something deeper going on underneath that you really have to address. And we always talk about getting to those root causes of those bigger or smaller problems, because that's really things like incompatibility of values, maybe poor communication, just lack of unresolved issues, trauma, personal trauma, all that has to be taken care of. So that way you're not bringing it into your relationship and actually making it really hard to be with you. Yeah. Another one.
So if you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around your spouse.
Yeah, that's certainly another one. And criticizing each other, that's kind of just more so, I think, talking about the aspects of, the negatives of fighting unresolved conflicts. Mainly if you have no respect for each other's opinions or feelings, right? You should, again, piggybacking on the big being on track one, is that you actually do respect each other and you're able to compromise, hear each other out, and value what your spouse has to say. You don't just disregard it and be like, oh, that's me. Like, oh, that's me. You like me or love me. Like, that's not a relationship. It's not like that. It really has to be reciprocal. And you have to be okay with, if your spouse is uncomfortable, being like, I back off because I love you. I can change it up a bit. I love you. It's nothing. It really isn't. It's not that big of a deal. I think people make things so, for the sake of ego, soothing the ego or appeasing the ego, I should say. And so it's really not that big of a deal, especially if you love your spouse. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Another bad
also,
one.
There's no intimacy.
Yeah.
So physically, So physical and emotional intimacy are essential for a healthy, long relationship. So if you're not feeling connected to your spouse, it's a sign that something is wrong.
Right.
Get help.
Yeah.
Try to talk about it, discuss it if you can. Get a third party, a mediator
Yeah.
involved so that they can help shed light on the situation especially when your spouse may shut down in talking about these type of issues.
Yeah. Or maybe if it's like maybe a health thing, like an underlying health thing that you need a third party, like a doctor, to come in and help you, figure out what that is. So your hormones can be in check so that you're actually wanting to have that, connection with your spouse. You really should want to connect with your spouse. And of course, it's not just about your physical intimacy. We're talking about your most emotional intimacy as well. So you should want to have those deep conversations. You should want to connect with your spouse, talk with them, hold their hands, cuddle, PDA, whatever, just doing those things that make each other feel like, hey, we're connected and we're one and we're actually enjoying each other in more ways than one.
You don't trust each other. So trust is another essential ingredient for healthy relationships. So if you don't trust your spouse,
Yeah.
it will be difficult to build a strong and lasting bond.
Yeah.
You can't have a relationship without trust.
Right. Yep. Self-explanatory. And if you're not happy, right, plain and simple, that's a really big one. Your relationships are not on track. If you're not happy, you should genuinely be happy in your relationship. I know people always say, oh, especially when it comes to marriage, like, oh, it's about duty, right? And that's so true. It is. Your commitment to your marriage certainly is a duty that sometimes your happiness may, be put on the back burner sometimes, especially if it's in the sense of you got to work a little harder or maybe do something a little different because your spouse is sick or you got kids or you got hormones. There's a whole bunch of different things that can come into play to why you may not be, your happiest of your happiest. So I get that aspect, but you genuinely should feel like in my relationship with my spouse, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, right? Like it doesn't matter what's going on. I don't want to be anywhere else. So I'm satisfied in this moment and I'm looking to make things better, however way that it needs to be addressed. And hopefully time will heal with all of that, especially if it's conflicts you're working through. But you certainly have to make sure that you're genuinely where you want to be. So then that way, when those conflicts come up, you don't want to up and jump ship so soon. Yeah.
Other things include you don't have any fun together.
Yes, you should have fun together. Certainly have fun together. And you should have things in common. And you should certainly see a future together. So if you don't see any of that, then yeah, your relationship is not really on track and you got some work to do. So really consider if you're experiencing any of these prior signs that we talked about in your relationship. Make sure that you're actually doing what you need to do to work on your relationship, find fulfillment, whether that's, being able to talk to a counselor to help you learn new ways of, dealing with trauma or like communication or, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why a relationship would need third-party help. We're certainly available for marriage consultations. Well, not marriage consultations, but marriage too. Yeah. But relationship in general, because it's all types of relationships that we could benefit. We could be of benefit by helping. So certainly wifeconomics.com/schedule a consultation. And I think that is all for tonight.
Yep.
The most part.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. That is all I can think of for pretty much if your relationship on track,
Yep. So it's important to note that staying in a relationship that is not on track can be harmful to both spouses. So it can lead to feelings of unhappiness, resentment, and loneliness. So if you're not sure whether or not your relationship is worth saving, it may be helpful to talk to someone, a therapist, a counselor. Make sure you vet your counselors. Make sure they are married, happily married, preferably a male.
Mm-hmm.
And if
share
not,
the video.
You can talk to us.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody who needs this advice, please, like my wife was saying, please share this video.
Oh, yeah.
Like and subscribe as well, especially on YouTube. We have a lot of more subscribers on Instagram, and we really appreciate you all
Yeah.
night in and night out joining with us Monday through Fridays, starting around 8:30. So with that being said,
Yes.
Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, we really appreciate you all.
Oh, we didn't
there
ask
any
questions. We ran through the
questions?
night. Look, the Steelers is playing tonight. How many football fans out there? No,
Yep.
this was a quick and easy one, so it's not really much. I wanted to check. Hold on, YouTube real quick. Facebook. Yep, no questions or anything. So yeah.
So with that being said, my good people, you all have a wonderful night and a wonderful week as well.
Yeah.
Yep. See you all tomorrow, same time, same place. You all have a good night. Peace.